Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to AVX Live. I'm Joe Gilderson, President of Corporate Audio Visual Services. And today is episode 36 and number 3 of 2022. I got to tell you, this has been a lot of fun overall. It's the prep, it's the show, it's the after party. All right, maybe it's not the after party, but either way, it's just like a real gig. You have to do all the same work, and you're learning new things all the time. And that's going to be a big topic of today's program. But let's do all of the basics here. For everybody who's just tuning in, we run the show on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, and you can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And look, if you get a chance, drop us a comment, be a part of the show. I mean, what's better than that? Either way, let's get this thing going here, right? We've already started the year with a couple of really great guests. I mean, we spoke with George Buzzio of Buzz Talk Live. Last week, we spoke with Ronnie Ram of Inspiria Outdoor Advertising, both great personalities with just tons of insight into our current environment. And for this week, we're going to bring it back to the tech side. And, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guests because we're all going to evolve due to our experience with him. So let me tell you about my friend from Florida, Omar Colom. Omar is a friend of Corporate AV. He shared his knowledge and expertise at one of our 2021 Pirate University sessions, as he often does with his over 4,000 members of his AV Educate audience. And if you haven't already, we'd highly recommend checking out their channels on Facebook and YouTube. They partner with Zoom Kitchen, held AV Tech Talks every Monday, and really recreated the freelance learning community. It's really phenomenal success during this pandemic. Omar is an accomplished video engineer, holds over 24 manufacturer certifications in the video world, is a second-generation video engineer, and is also a U.S. combat veteran and a proud father. So let's bring this guy into the show. Omar, bienvenidos, mi amigo.
Gracias para venir para acá. ¿Cómo está todo el mundo? ¿Todo el mundo está bien? ¿O en español, en inglés? ¿Cuál quiere ser?
Esta vez vamos a hablar en inglés.
I think it's the first time I've ever started off in Spanish on a show. That's awesome. I like it.
Well, maybe you need to do that more. I mean, open it up one Monday night,
We thought about it, but then we felt like we would hurt some market, another market, and we actually had a buddy of ours, Hector, who's really good, and we did like a pilot of it, and let's just say there's some technical words that I just didn't know existed in Spanish. So my Spanish isn't there, but I appreciate it, and I tried. So anybody want to shame me on social media, by all means, go ahead. But yeah, I would love to do a Spanish show one day, so that would be really cool.
Well, it's funny, but those aren't the words I actually know in Spanish. Like, I don't know all the technical words in Spanish. I know conversational,
simple ones. Yeah, a conversation, of course. Yeah, no, there's simple ones that I was just like, you know what? I don't know if there's a Spanish word for that, or if there's I talked to my brother who lives on the island still in Puerto Rico, and he's like, oh yeah, we call it this, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, it's just funny the way it is, because sometimes you don't put all those things together. You've probably heard.
Yeah.
But either way, look, it's great to have you here. And, I don't know about down there, but I mean, is it 26 degrees and ice everywhere down there? Or?
No, not to get any haters, but it's beautiful, clear skies today. It's bright, nice and blue. I'm actually just come off the beach, so it was super nice, and a nice little breeze coming in. And it was a little cold this morning. It's 55. Now it's back to the 70s.
It's a real problem.
Yeah, it's summer year round. I don't know if people don't come to Florida more often.
Well, I know that we've had some people visit, just recently from, and they were all very happy. So,
yeah.
Either way, plus you guys actually have activity going on right now. It's a little harder in the Northeast.
Of course.
No, you got the EV world right this second.
I made a decision a long time ago. If anywhere I go, if I walk out the house and my face is cold, we're not living there. So pretty much South Florida and down is where I stay.
Well, I think that's been a hot topic in my house recently too. My wife is from South America, and she does not like the cold and snow. So.
Yeah, see, she knows. So she knows, and you definitely know because she's telling you.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry, she's telling me. It's not even a question. The question is, am I listening? But she's telling me. I mean,
Oh yeah, no. We all got the dad ears at some point.
But either way, hey, listen, how did you get started in the AV world? You're a second generation video engineer. How'd you get started in this thing?
So second generation, I always love using that line because I rarely meet people, right? So, one of the favorite things that I love that Tyler does on the Evolves podcast is he always asks that's the first question, right? That initial kind of question is, how did you get in the industry? And everybody's always, let me ask everybody because I'm not in that boat, but 98% of everybody that he asked that, they fell into the industry, right? Or they stumbled onto it. My dad actually owns a company called Media Stage in South Florida. So that's where I get my claim to fame as second generation. In addition to that, me being a video engineer as my father is, my brother's also in cinematography in Puerto Rico. He works for the union down there. My uncle Richie's a lighting engineer who also works in the industry. I have another uncle in Vegas who is an electrical master and rigger. So like my family kind of does this, and not to give all the credit to my father because he has his own company and does this for a long time, 35 plus years. And, I would like to say that we all kind of saw like the potential of what this is and the fun of it. And we were like, hey, how do we do that? And he was like, my dad's always been like, that's the Latin us, right? Like you got to work your way up the ladder. He's like, yeah, come work for me in the warehouse, work your way up and then figure out what you want. And, for me, after I left the military, I did 6 years in the office with him. And I did this in high school. High school, I did theater for like the last 2 years, did the thespian things, got awards for that. I did TV production in high school as well for 4 years. And I got a bunch of awards for the broadcast side. I don't really count those because when I started working with my dad was after the military. And for 6 years, I was for 4 years, I was the warehouse guy. I did pipe and drape. I did scenic. I did all like the grunt work, right? Driving the trucks, offloading, loading stuff for a good 3 to 4 years. And then learning
things. Every one of them is vital to what we do.
Right. And I learned all the ins and outs of like QCing for audio, video, and lighting. And I was always like, I don't want to do lighting. It's too heavy. I don't really like audio because there's
the feeder cable, right? It was the feeder.
No, it was no, this is like, remember, 35-year company. They had that truss. It was, each truss was like 25 pounds each. And you're like lugging that around. And then those 50-pound base plates. And I was like, done. That's not me. And then audio is like, there's just so many of you guys. Like you guys are like everywhere. So I don't want to do that. And then video just seemed the most complicated and kind of like, hey, there's all these little knick-knack problems that are, you have to really engineer about. So I went down that path and I kind of say I've been doing AV for the last 12 years. And that's because I really felt like at that time was when I really started to learn and dive into this stuff. And it also when, for what I do now moving forward, it's kind of what gave me that passion is I left the military. And if I'm jumping ahead, I'm sorry. I left the military with a very structured, very kind of like I always joke around with this is, if the military could write a book on how to use a mop, it'd be a dictionary because we just over-explain everything. But I was so used to that, right? So it's like high school, signed up when I was 17, went to war, had this very structured kind of environment, did fantastic. Come out of that, now I'm doing AV, and it's like, well, I want to learn this stuff. Where's the information on it? And video was super scarce. So it was like, I want to learn all this stuff because there's nothing about it, fast forward 12 years, now there's much more information available to us as engineers and technicians. But on the flip side to that, there were still a lot of things that I was like, where is this at? Or how can I find this out? And it was like, I had to go on this hunt, this mission. And I ended up through that, well, no one's giving it out. I'm just going to start giving information out and start helping the community out and having these talks because no one's having these talks. So I would go on job site and just talk about stuff like, hey, well, I had this problem. What did you do? Or what would you have done? Or, and you start hearing these stories. And that's kind of that's how I get on this path, right? It's like, I wanted to learn more. And there's some things I did, not that it wasn't void, 12 years ago, AVX was around, very different than what it is now.
It's a very different process of learning.
Yeah.
And of course, and I'm not saying anything incorrect, but AVX and Infocom itself was certainly designed around the install community, as opposed to the live staging community, right?
That's what I felt. It was definitely very geared toward that.
Very hard to find information to train people. That's how we started Pirate University for that very same reason. Because try to get someone started in the business. All right, look, you're going to push the case. You're going to do this. You're going to pipe and drape. There's no question you're doing pipe and drape first. But then what? How do you teach them stuff? And there was nothing. To show anybody that. So
of course,
that's how we got started, kind of in that training road too. And it's exciting to see, just kind of see the way everything's come along. And now there's a lot of information if you're looking for it, But Omar, I got to point out a few comments. Apparently, wardrobe's a big thing as well, because not
it is just a white shirt.
not only Ed had a comment, but apparently Megan, thought you really put it together well. So I mean, you got some fans, even though Ed did come back with a critique on the headphones.
I agree, Ed. I do need to get smaller headphones. But my running gunning lifestyle, this was the and I hate to always admit these things, right? But this was like I went to Best Buy, found it, and it was like these work. Let me just take this and run with it. So that's why these are newer than the last time. If you guys saw the Pirate University one, I had much cooler ones that were more gamer like. These are much more, I don't know, corporate-y looking, I guess. But yeah, I was going for that sports vibe look, you know.
I know. I think you got the sports thing going.
I look like an announcer, right? I need a bigger.
We always joke around about the Bluetooth stuff, which works like half the time. So today it's working, but I got my backup already wired. So. But you never know. Like that could just go away as quick as it came. So
yeah.
It is kind of funny, but no, the fact that that you saw that need, and that was a long time ago too, is really what sets the stage, I think, for kind of like where you're going right now. But I also think it's interesting that you chose video as your expertise.
Okay.
Because I always thought if I was an engineer, which I'm not, because I have basically zero skills, I would choose video. Number one, it makes the most money.
Yeah.
But it's also, to me, the most interesting, because I'm a visual type of person. I like art and design and things like that. But I just think it's constantly changing fast. I think it's kind of interesting.
I will say, and I know Ed's in the comments here, so I'll use Ed as the primary example. And this is where it does come from. Ed has this breadth of knowledge on both departments, and he's able to bridge this kind of audio video gap in knowledge a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And the way he sees it and does it, it makes audio like damn, when guys really know audio, this seems easy for them, versus like you really know video, audio still seems like a little bit of a mystery. But Ed's like, oh yeah, it's this, it's that, and then it's like, what? And he goes, oh, let me talk about it in video terms, and he like connects. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes total sense. I get that now. And a lot of things that I've learned in the last year and a half, audio wise, has been Ed like talking about it in video to connect it to the audio side. So now, like my visuals of it is very video like, even though like today we're doing a whole Dante thing and we had some problems, and I was solving it thinking video, but like using Dante and audio terminology that Ed taught me. And it's like, man, this makes total sense. I need to think the way Ed thinks about more things, because his terminologies are great. And
well, Ed's an exception, though. There's not a lot of guys who have knowledge on both sides to that level and in depth. So he's an exception in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
But all that's been really helpful, right, in the last almost 2 years now, because of the way it all converged in the streaming side.
Well, it was great. So, when Ed and me started this, and I'm sure he's talked about it before in the other part, when we started this, it was really, we had watched, so Ed and me actually have never met in person, by the way. I should mention that. We talked about this recently, and apparently this is a thing. We've never met in person. We've only ever met virtually, and we, obviously talk on the phone and stuff like that. And I've talked to his kids and his wife and vice versa. Never met in person yet. And yet, we say yet though, because we're going to make it happen. But we both on a platform, I forget which one it was, we're talking about how we're tired of seeing these free classes, these free whatever, and they're just like these sales pitches or these demos, and they don't dive into anything. It was just like, yeah, here's this guy's mapping, and then like, yeah, so we did mapping. Come to the class and we'll teach you how to do this. And it's like an hour-long video. And it's like, I didn't learn anything. I learned more about this guys that I could have Googled myself, So me and Ed just wanted to start talking and having these kind of, we call them like round table, like, when you go to a job site, you guys, we talk and we bullshit and we figure out like, hey, I did a show, I did this, and like, we learn from each other, and that kind of went away, and we saw that as an opportunity to do stuff. So when we actually started AV Tech Talks on that portion of it, we actually were doing them privately, just to have that discussion about XYZ with other people that were engineers from all over the world to figure out, a different way to do something. And then from that, we started the next thing, and it became very just freeing. Like, like we can get this one guy who knows a lot, and then like bring in these questions, which in turn is funny, is, as anybody's ever presented with us. And like I'm sure you've realized, Joe, the questions that you get from the audience end up teaching you about the stuff that you didn't even know about, right? And it's like, that is such a cool concept. So we loved doing it, and we loved being the instructors in it. But we also knew at some point, right, we can't be it all, because we don't know it all. Like we're good at what we do, but we don't know all of it. So there's other people who are better at it, and we bring them on board, and we learn from them, and we learn from other people that are asking questions, and from those answers. and it gives us this better understanding, this better grasp of things. And I've talked about this, I think, on your Paradise, and I talked about this with Jeff Woodgren. It's very interesting how just by having these conversations with people and learning when you're seeing that program, it's much easier to retain that information and recall it when you need it. And that's been
you formed a connection, right?
Right.
And that's how you recall things and then remember them. And then that moment comes where you need to know how to do that thing, and the associations there. And I think, but the community itself, I mean, the fact that, all this, did AV Tech Talks start first, or was AV Educate first?
So AV Educate started first. So that was a napkin idea. I should make a video about this, guys. I feel like no one knows about this. If you actually go to the group, so there's a page, which is, which is what we post the events on, because that's where the events can get posted on.
And this is AV Educate?
Yeah, so there, AV Educate, there's a Facebook page and a Facebook group. In the group page, if you guys go there, here we go.
Actually bring this guy.
So you're in the homepage. So if you go to Facebook, right, go to AV Educate, and there's a group. So that's the page. So the page is what connects my personal Instagram or AV Educate Instagram to Facebook, and it allows us to create, right. So that's the group. Yep.
Okay.
So if you're in the group and you join, if you guys see, you should see where it goes to more and go to files.
Okay. Files.
And you go to files. So in there is about 100 plus 150 e-documents, e-books, documents, Excels, PowerPoints, whatever you can think of.
I see a coloring book. I mean, I'm excited about that.
That's something I created on the fly just for Christmas one year. My daughter loved it. You guys should totally download that. It's super fun for the kids. But so these are all downloadable contexts. These are books about sound, about video, about lighting. There's just a ton of things in here. This is things that I've shared, things that the community shared. And this is all free for you to access however, whenever you want. Also in group, if you go there and you go to should go back to the top, there should be, if you click on topics, yep.
Okay.
So our prop goes to Jamie Jacobs and Ryan Wade, who have organized a lot of this and maintain a lot of this. You should be able to click on some of those, and it'll kind of highlight all the topics on, let's say, lighting. If you click on that, everything that's ever been posted
about
the
virtual events. I got distracted.
That's okay. Everything that's been posted about that topic will all show up in that feed. So if anybody's posted about anything virtual and use hashtags or verbiage of that nature, it'll be tagged to that section.
Excellent. Well done.
Yeah. So the page has a lot more resources for you. And the whole point of that page is that the community can also contribute things. And it's not just what myself or my team is posting. You guys can also post whatever you like, and we'll organize it and categorize it the best that we can as quickly as we can. But again, that credit goes to Jamie Jacobs and Ryan Wade, because they do a lot of that out of their own hearts. And I really appreciate that work. And I'll go in there when I can and, fix what I can and do what I can. There's also one more part. If you go to guides, I believe it is.
Sure.
So if you go to guides, yep. And if you go there, these are kind of training modules. So everything audio related that had like a training component to it is organized into these sections. So you could go in there and do a kind of a deep dive into these topics like you would on the internet. But again, all kind of organized under one umbrella for you to really kind of get in and dive in. And again, the more people share and contribute to the group, the more we kind of try to organize that and keep it there. And it's free to access, free to do whatever you like.
Well, I just put the link in there for everyone, so everybody make sure you check it out. Okay.
Awesome.
But this is on the Facebook group page. So you got to join the group, and then you have access to all this unbelievable information.
Yep.
It would have been almost impossible to pull together, but that's what I think is so interesting. If I go to just a couple of our comments for a second, like here's a gentleman from India, Rohit, he's been part of the show and part of a number of other things we've been doing over time. And he's part of our community. And here's a gentleman that we wouldn't know, right? If it wasn't due to the pandemic, we probably wouldn't have be commenting back and forth. He wouldn't be on the show today, and he wouldn't be watching.
We got a guy called we have a gentleman called Rashid out of India as well, who's a follower, and he's a phenomenal engineer. Honestly, we've actually done a couple of times where he's led it, and also he was in my summit. The guy's like a maverick when it comes to this stuff. It's incredible to have met him and talked to him and just pick his brain. The way he processes information is amazing.
Well, and that's what makes this so important, especially on the virtual side, right? Because you literally may need every time zone. Like, you don't know what you need yet.
Yeah, or your show might be.
You do need someone to communicate, and especially if it's in the native language and the skills translate from one country to the other. Like if we're all using vMix or whatever, then like you can send the files and they can do the gig wherever they are.
Yep.
So you can't do that when you're staging, a show in the Orlando Convention Center. So
Yeah. Good internet and some confidence in your abilities and a good instructor, and you're good to go nowadays.
yeah, but building that community, I think, is really important, and that's it sounds like this has always been kind of a part of you, like wanting to, not only train and learn, but build and lead that community.
Yeah. I don't know about lead it. I always wanted to start it so that the platform was there for you to kind of take hold and be able to have place to experiment, to work with it, and people to work on. Um, Coincidentally, and I've said this a couple times recently, only because it was brought to my attention in that manner. Ed and me have become like the face of this, and our actually our original intention was that kind of, provide a platform to help our colleagues, be able to learn from each other and express yourself and give back to the community, right? There's this older generation that is kind of wanting to retire and get out of the industry, and this younger generation coming in, making the same mistakes that the other generation made. And if we could relay that so that we can continue to build on the shoulders of the generation before us and not tear it down and start it all over again, I think that's a great point and something we tried a lot for. So I'm going to read this real quick, right? So good point, or reading out loud. Good point that when live events were a thing, there was an informal exchange of technical information, which was shut down when the forums disappeared. Yeah, to Jim's point, that's exactly what happened, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and not to take away from anything, because we also started doing the same thing. It was also to check in, right? Like, hey, go get your guy to get on the call with us. We'll have a good time. We'll hang out. I remember I did one. I don't know if anybody knows the name Clem Harold. Clem, me, and my buddy Robert Permenter have all worked together in the industry. Hadn't seen for a while. We actually did a Zoom call just to check in. We ended up drinking till like 4 a.m. It was like a 6-hour call just to connect, because it had been months since anybody talked to each other. And it was the first time I felt like, oh man, I'm getting to geek out and nerd out about the things that I like. And I missed this. And we did that for I don't know, maybe like a month or two, but we did it for a while, like weekly. And it was great to kind of get back to that camaraderie, and you don't realize what you're missing until it's gone.
I know. Well, and here's where right here. There's one thing that's come out of, good that's come out of this. It's made the world a smaller place.
I
And
agree.
he's right. Unfortunately, we've all had to go through this thing at the same time, no matter where you are. It's affected every corner of the world. And, it affects all these, our AV community the most. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but
No, it did. It did.
I can't think of it affecting anybody else worse than really our community. But
yeah, I mean, think about,
we don't have takeout, like we can't.
Right. There's no order out. You just know Uber AV, right? Yeah. So I mean, to that point, we started, me and 3 other guys started what's called the Live Events Coalition. And, some of the knowledge I gained from that side when we started this endeavor was there was no voice in government for us. Zero. We had no existence, which I'm sure for a lot of the business owners, like, yeah, of course, like, no one knows what we are. My EIN is something else because there's, corporate AV doesn't exist, or, it's only sports broadcast and, not even artists. It was like, what was the other option as a freelancer? It was not entertainer. It was like the guy that hires entertainers. That was like one of the possible things your EIN could be. And I was like, what? So LAC, we start talking to these other entities that are AV related, right? But they're all in these silos and they don't want to share information. So we're like, hey, we're going up to Nancy Pelosi, right? We're putting information for the PPP program so that you guys who didn't do your W-2s can get some money, right, as freelancers in the independent world. Right? Remember that once you ripped up the first time and then came back later and said yes to? That was the LAC pushing that through. And, there's a lot of money involved and stuff like that. But we tried to get statistics from a bunch of different organizations. And they're like, well, you're not a member and we don't have to share any of that stuff with you. And then, fast forward to a year, it became, hey, so what do you guys need to push forward? Because we saw you push this through here and you've been talking to these representatives. It's like, oh, we still need to know what you're seeing statistical wise. And a lot of the numbers they have were, predictions based off of their own stuff, not even the globally. So we started that and started changing things around to see what we can make happen. And it became very apparent that we are a unregistered, unrecognized kind of an industry that no one cared about. And we're trying to change that. Right. So, and it's interesting that for all the, back and forth with government officials and things like that, it's interesting that when things are needed to happen, you learn very quickly. And I think a lot of freelancers did that too, right? They learn very quickly, like, oh man, I've been doing this stuff wrong for a long time and now I'm hurting because of it, right?
Yeah.
And I think, but again, that's changed it a little bit, right? So, yeah, but it's changed, I think, the roadmap for freelancers as far as their education goes when it comes to the business side of things, right? They're much more, these people that I'm dealing with, right? They're much more conscious of things like that, right? There's some guys that came in recently that they're like, it's all great, it's gravy. It's like, you're gonna figure out in like 5-10 years when something else happens why you need to be doing XYZ this way.
Well, but that's why you need a community. You need other people who
Mhm.
have some similarity to you. Hey, what do you do with this thing? Because I think this might be a problem. Taxes are coming up. My accountant says I'm going to run into this. Like, you need other people that have already gone through that to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, and
And I
that's
think that's just another offshoot of what this community is doing, is speaking to each other and helping.
yep, and that's exactly how we started the AV podcast on that side with Austin Jackson. We talk more about the business side, the money side, those soft skills, right? So Academy realized AV Tech Talks was the very hard skills, and I forgot who gave us that terminology. Someone gave us that terminology, but there's hard skills, which is definitely what's needed. But then on the other side of business, you need those soft skills. So we started separating those conversations to get them their due diligence and their respective fields, and that's been both of those programs in conjunction. Just they run all the time. There's always topics coming up in the Discord channel. There's always conversations between Ed and me that we're having with other people about things. We're like, hey, we should talk about this. And it's like what's really cool and what I like the most about both of these programs that we do and your program as well is that you could bring on a different person who does the same exact thing and get a completely different answer and outcome out of that conversation because the workflows that we do are so different, right? The end, like the beginning, the end is very simple, but that in between part, that nitty gritty stuff, everybody has a different process. Like the way I run projectors or playback or graphics or video switching, it's going to be so different for somebody else. And they'll be like, well, this is all mixed up. You're like, well, that makes sense for me, And that's what
I mean, the audio guys have been doing that forever. They can rewire that board 12 different ways and they'll all be wrong, according to the guy before.
All wrong, yeah. Or mics. They could all use the wrong mic 100 times, but that's not the right one for that. Like, oh, Jesus.
No, but I mean, I think that's one of the great things, because you're not just talking about the actual training, which is very hard to come by in many different things, especially the software groups and different groups. So when we were first going through the streaming and everything back in March, and everybody was remote. I mean, the guys, I'm not very technical. The guys are asking, they're trying to explain vMix to me and Wirecast and this. OBS, I understood. I'm like, all right, I got that part a little bit, but you're trying to explain it to me. I'm like, guys, I don't know, man. I don't get it. And then I watched the YouTube video from Anthony Barocas, who we've had on the show before. I'm like,
nice.
I get it. Now I get it. Yep. Like I was watching the video. I'm like, why can't you explain it like this guy just did? I'm like, I get it now. I'm like, yeah, we need that.
That's what it is. Yeah. That's
so you do. You need those soft skills as much as the technical skills. And it's a little off topic, but since that is my role and we do hire, like I'm in a position of hiring different, freelance and part-time and different skills all the time.
Right.
The hardest thing to find is always soft skills. Having the communication, be able to, somebody that actually can talk to the client, but yet still do the technical work. That's always the hardest part. So for anybody watching it, if you can, you got to go on to the soft skill part of the show too. I know it's not as exciting. I get that, but you got to get the basics down. You really do.
And it's hard, right? Because people in general, and I did too for a very long time, and it took me many years and moving up that corporate ladder, within the industry itself. The soft skills can actually get you more work because a lot of the times, and I say this a lot too, a lot of times, and Joe, you correct if I'm wrong, in your position, you would rather have the guy who's super client friendly and decent at the job on a particular show than the super badass tech who's like the mad genius, but is a complete asshole.
All the time. Now there's a time and a place for that person.
Yes.
Depending on the project.
Depending on the project, right, and the client for sure.
Absolutely. But our friend Jim Marlin knows what I'm talking about. We've had to actually put people in other rooms. We've walled them off a drape. Like we've done all sorts of weird things because we're like, no, we need to keep that person away from the client.
Right. Like
They're
that guy
good at their job.
He's really good, but not at this. Yeah.
But we can't have communication right now between the client who's super delicate to begin with and, overwhelmed with anxiety at that moment and the person who needs it to work exactly like this.
Yeah.
There cannot be any alternative. There cannot be an extra
100%.
cup on this table. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to work.
And that's a whole different mindset, right? Like some people just they don't see that, like, oh, I'm the best at this, I should get all the jobs. It's like, yeah, but you're not good at this part here. And unfortunately, in corporate, we may call ourselves engineers and technicians and all that, but the reality is that we are in the hospitality business and we are catering to our clients. And the position we're
Absolutely.
in, whether we get paid good or not at that position because of our deals, the reality is that you, not only AV being at the bottom of the totem pole, but you now are at the bottom of the totem pole and the bottom of that totem pole as the freelancer, because you have it's you, then your client, their client's client, their client's client, and then the company. So you're already at the bottom being AV, and as far as that goes, if you're not the company owner, you're
Oh
at the
no,
bottom of that
please.
too. So
Hey,
it's
please.
like,
It's all the same position as the reality. Once that show
right,
starts, it's all the same position.
yep,
It's just what do you need to do to get the job done? And I,
right,
I think that's one of the great things about our industry. And we talk about it all the time on our side, like, hey, maybe in this office, my job is X, Y, and Z. But once we get out on that job site, dude, you're in charge. You
yeah,
just tell me what you need. You need me to flip the light switch on and off so that, all right,
yep,
I'm that guy today. You need me to what? Go chase down, the union camera guy who just walked off the gig. All right, I guess I'm that guy today. But like we have different roles depending on the day,
yep,
and I think that's interesting that someone today is the video engineer, and tomorrow they're in charge or they're the TD, and then the next day you're moving those cases into the truck.
yep.
It's a very I think it keeps you humble. I think that's part of it.
Well, the other thing too is I think what people take for granted sometimes, right, is that once you're in that upper echelon, like there's two things people I think take for granted because they don't, it doesn't click sometimes, right? Like, one is as in elite position and in some of these bigger shows, you're probably making more than that person on stage is making, right? So like
Yeah,
financially,
some of
if
them,
you're
yeah.
good, yeah, this industry like pays really well for what we do, and you're very talented at what you can do, and this skills that you don't really necessarily go to school for. You have to learn them right on the job. And the flip side to that, the other one that I think is very cool is that you get to meet not just the CTO, the CEO, like the actual company owners, and meet these guys. And a lot of times they're just as humble as you are, and they're just as cool and laid back as you are. And it's really that CEO or the CTO who's like, oh, excuse me, sir, you got to be this and that, and I need this, that. And it's like, whoa. And then, the other guy that you've been chilling with, like, that's like the actual owner, and he's just hanging out because he's the owner, right? So it's like there's this crazy line that we cross that we don't even realize we're crossing. That you get to meet so many company owners and just get to hang out with these people. And I'm not saying this is 24/7. Obviously, you meet some of the owners and you're just like, that dude's an asshole. Like, please keep him away from me, right? Joe, come in. This guy's on top of me, please. All right, there's
And then
sometimes
that's when I come down from flipping the
right,
light switch, and and then I
and you're
run
like, oh, okay,
interference, right?
I'll
And
make
then I
I'll make
jump in
my
the middle. And
right. I'll make my money today, guys. Don't worry, I'll keep him away.
no, I mean, but you're right. And the reality is each one of these. That's why I say every role is important because I mean, look at how the A2 might be like the most important person in the place. They're the ones who are actually miking
Yeah,
that executive, that performer, whoever it is. And honestly, they're usually relying on all of the technical team. They'll say all the time, like they might be kind of gruff with their assistants and whoever works for them, but they're not like that usually with the technical team.
right.
Why? Because they need us to make them look good, right?
Hmm.
So it all makes sense usually, and they'll listen. If you say,
Yep.
you know what, don't go to this part of the stage because when you do, then this half of your face is going to be dark and the camera can't pick. Like they're not going to do that then. They just need you to tell them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But you have to be able to communicate that in
Yeah.
a proper way. That's all.
100%.
Don't yell at them, dude. That's not, yeah, you can't go there. Like, all right, there's other ways to say the same thing.
Yeah.
But either way, I don't want us to get too off track. But it's all about the
Oh,
community,
yeah.
and
Sorry
I
about
think
it if
that's
I'm
what
taking
you
you guys
guys
off
are.
track. I'm great at doing that. I'm sorry.
No. It's 100% because it is about the community, and that's what you've been doing with AV Educate and AV Tech Talks, and I got to watch the other one. I haven't seen the other one of the soft skills. I guess I'm
Yeah,
behind.
yeah. So we have the podcast. Those are on Wednesday nights, and now we do this every other week. So it's like one week is this, one week is that. Oh, what's up in Sweden? I like that. Thanks,
Hey,
Lars.
Lars just
Um,
came in. Thanks, Lars.
yeah. So, yeah, the other one is all soft skills. Kind of the money side of things, the technical, the honestly, so it'd be like, Joe, you'd be a great presenter because it'd be like, hey, when I'm on show side in this position, this is what I'm expecting from my crew. And a lot of times, what I felt, and is why I love these talks, is these guys don't get to hear that, right?
Right.
And I think that's the key. Like, we're giving that opportunity to get the voice out there, let them hear from the higher ups essentially. No, this is what they're expecting of you, and some of you guys don't even know that they're expecting of that.
Because they just didn't know. That's all. They want to do the right thing. They just didn't know that, and that's why learning from others is so important. Because there could be something really simple that could take you from one level to the next level. How do you go from stagehand to technician? How do you go from technician to engineer? How do you go from a lot of it's small things.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And the biggest one is to keep learning. That is critical.
It is critical. No, it's I don't know the best way to say this. I won't use the one that I typically use here, which is RTMF, right? It's the acronym, which I'll let you guys Google that on your own. RTMF is the main one if you want to keep learning. But the other one too is like, if you want to move in this industry, train your replacement. That's been my favorite thing. If you want to move up, train your replacement. And I think that was really a game changer for me too. A couple of years ago with my mentor, Mark Duffy, he went from a video switcher engineer guy to like a producer, and he trained me for a long time. And I was just like, oh, old guy, he's getting that, whatever. And he's like, no, I've been training you to do this so that I could do these shows, and I'll just bring you as my replacement. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. So like for a few years, I had a great mentor who did, taught me a lot of stuff, and I've gone from there and took different directions. But the greatest advice is that one, and the other one is shit in and shit out. For editing, shit in and shit out. If it's not looking good when it comes in, it's not going to look that good when you edit it.
No, you can dress it up so much, but
yeah. If it's got glare and grain and all this other stuff, there's only so much I can do before it just looks digitized.
No, look, it is true, but I think what you're doing with the community is exceptional, and I know, that everybody needed it. Like its timing was obviously perfect, and everybody needed it. They needed to feel like they could communicate with others again. And we're all locked away, and then they needed to learn. And the best way is learning from each other, because we all had to recreate the wheel, and so the show was excellent. I mean, really, I know that you're running AV Educate, but I think you might have something else going on in your life, especially by that busy background going on over there.
I do. So
why don't you tell me about
so I'm also the National Director of Education for Evolve Technologies. If you guys don't know who that is a rental company that rents out high-end video on the video side. We are also talking right now about doing some audio stuff, just because there's a lot of high-end audio people we know, and there's a lot of new technologies on the audio side coming out that are mixing a lot with video. So there's just interconnectivity that's happening in the industry right now, right? The way I like to kind of frame that a little bit is that if you're a stagehand out there right now, and you've been following AV Educate and you've been doing some of the stuff with us, right? This is great knowledge. This is a lot of practical, theoretical, right? You want to get your hands dirty. You want to get some more hands-on with stuff. Come to Evolve. Come take some of our classes, right? Let us give you the foundational knowledge now, right? So now you've got some theoretical knowledge. You've got some basic hands-on stuff. You got experience from working job sites. Let us give you a foundation to build on, so that as you gain that experience out there in the world, you're building on the foundation that you've been given. And a lot of times that we do things backwards, right? We gain tons of experience, and then we start learning all these different switches, all these different things, right? And of course, this is a video perspective, but I can go on a show and run an Image Pro 2, go on the next show, be running a Blackmagic Sky Switcher, go on the next show, be running a Carbonite, go on the next show and run a Pulse 2, right? And these are all different. And I know on the ground level, because of my media stage days, right, the fundamentals, what a switcher is supposed to do. What my experience is supposed to tell me is, how do I get this console to do, or the switcher to do what I need it to do, right? And that's kind of what we're doing over at Evolve, is we're taking that you've got experience, you've got theoretical, let's give you foundational, so that you can learn to master something, and then take that knowledge you have with you and plug it into other things out there. Because the reality is, no matter what we're doing here, you're always going to be on different consoles, different clients, different systems, different setups, right? Some of it's the same, but there's different things for that.
Well, but that's why you need the understanding, not just the button, right? And that's, I mean, because you're right. I mean, a lot of times people don't really know the signal flow to it or the whys, and it only shows up in the troubleshooting. If everything goes perfect, you'll be fine. I don't know how often it goes perfect, but I mean,
hopefully, always, something always goes wrong, and it's usually not the technical part. It's mostly like, hey, we changed this. Can we do this now? And it's like, yeah, I got you. And then, oh, but by the way, this is for the guy going on stage right now. Oh,
you're like,
I got to get to work. Trying to solve, right? Trying to solve.
Absolutely. Amanda says hello.
Amanda, just so everybody knows, is my partner. I'm just going to call her out live. So if you guys want to go and tag her and bug her and poke her. It's my partner, Megan. I see your comment here. I love what you said here. If you could bring Megan's back up here, train your replacement totally, but it's also showing a level of care and dedication to wanting people to do better and looking at the overall health of our industry. I really like that only because these are the things that I'm talking about that you know, my partner Ed and other people that are kind of influential in my life, my father. It's I said something right, and she's interpreting it this way, but the way she's saying it, it sounds way better than what I just said, right? But it is that, right?
She might have better soft skills than you do.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Megan's a fantastic recruiter for the labor side. So if anybody's looking for work out in Cali, she's the go-to. But it is true, right? Like maybe maybe the way I say it resonates with some people, and maybe the way hearing it this way resonates with other people. But I always like to hear that kind of like the poetic side of our industry, because a lot of things we do, we get really nitty-gritty with the nerdy stuff, right? And I'm sure people have everybody has got a partner here, and they're just like, like my favorite is my family, right? So I have family that was getting married recently, and they're like, "Hey, can you come do the photography for the wedding?" And I was like, "No, I don't know how to do that. Right? I don't know how to do that. Don't you do video for a living? Not that." And like like it doesn't click. So I think like when we talk about our industry in a more romanticized or poetical way, people just it clicks more. Versus I'm a video engineer. I set up LED walls and screens. Like the concert stuff. Well, that's live events, but similar systems, but for corporate stuff. Also, you work in an office. No, I work in ballrooms a lot of times all over the US.
You're the IT guy.
Oh yeah, you're the IT guy. No.
Well, I mean, that's what they do to IT. Why do you think those guys are so angry all the time? I mean, if it's got a computer or a Cat 6 running into it, it's their fault somehow. Like they get yelled at all day long.
For sure. Oh yeah.
Oh, nothing to do with anything that's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, it's the internet's fault. It's all that. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I think a lot of people, maybe not all the way around the country, know about Evolve, because I know it was only a few years ago I really heard about them. And you work with a friend of mine, Benoit, and I was talking to him recently. He's a great guy.
I love Benoit. I know him
from his Analog Way days. So.
Benoit taught me how to run an Analog Way back in the day before the Aqualon, so the Ascender. And I always say the name wrong. I always say Vertige, but it's not Vertige. It's Vertigo or Vertige, I think is what it is. And it's the
Vertige sounds more French, so I mean maybe it's Vertige.
It's the console for the Ascender 48s. So it's an actual and we learned he taught me that. It feels like a lifetime ago. But now we work together to Evolve, and actually it was funny. We were talking a couple of days ago. We were doing a sale with E2 and Analog Way. And we had we're talking about some stuff about that. Also, we do training on that at Evolve. So if you guys are interested,
so are there? Does it list anything as far as Evolve?
So if you go to that page, if you go to that page, it's there. You'll see some stuff about training that's coming up. Projectors, LED training. Actually, LED training got taken down, and I'll explain why in a minute. But you'll see projector up there. You'll see E2. You see camera switching, some shader stuff. I'll say this publicly to everybody here. One of the things I implemented when I came on board as the director is, if you call us, reach out to me directly. If you get 4 people, including yourself, so 3 others plus yourself or more, depending whether you want it to be certified by the manufacturer or an Evolve certification, we will work on your time frame versus you working on ours. And that's something we've been doing very, very effectively. The reason, if you go to learn, and you scroll down there, the reason you don't see posted online right now is that has been working so well that we have about a class to 2 a month right now on LED walls. And this is all by the community coming to us directly. There's also a couple of these. So like you see the introduction to projection, that's an online course that we have. Mm-hmm. That's $100, and it's a full kind of run through the basic 101 projection skill sets. And you can also come in afterwards and do a hands-on with us and learn level 2, which would be more of a projector, blending, curvatures, and warping. A little bit of that with Panasonics. And then you can see some of the other classes up here. We have like Disguise, we have Analog Way, we have a Disguise class coming up right now, Fundamentals. We have offices in Vegas, Orlando, and Atlanta. In the Atlantic office, we have what's called a CX Lab. So if any of you guys are learning that new cinema style virtual setup with the LED walls or the green screens or the motion trackers, we have Stipe, we have Moses, we have Apson, we have 3.9 and 2.9 walls there, both from couple different brands in-house just for different scenarios. Pixar is also a big partner of ours, and we do a lot of training with them as well. Event Mastery 2. So The E2 labs, sorry, E2, the CX lab is in Atlanta, which is kind of where we get to have fun and learn about all the new latest and greatest out there. So it's the playground right now. But also we do training there. We do training in all 3 locations. I think I'm pretty sure coming up for Vegas right now, we have a disguise class in a couple of days. And then we're actually doing a international class right now for E2 with South Africa. And that is a non-certified class. But again, that gentleman reached out to us. We told him the deal and told him the prices. He found 4 of the participants. So he has 5 total for his class. Eli's probably doing that right now. We started it yesterday, and today would be day 2 of it. And it's a virtual E2 run-through for the students in South Africa. Let's open
listen,
Europe office.
You got an offer. You got an offer.
So,
Lars is in. He says, let's do it.
So Lars, we do have a partnership with Lang. That's unofficial. I'm not sure how official it is, but we do a lot of stuff back and forth with them. So I'm sure they could something we could figure it out about that. I'll push it up the chain and see what happens. I love doing that. You guys ever reach out to me? I love just keeping ideas and see where they go. Right? If he says no, he says no. Right? No harm done. If he says yes, then it's like, oh shit, let's figure this out.
Well, listen, everybody, I put links in there for both AV Educate. I put in for Evolve, just so, go and check everything out, learn a little bit more. I really got, I want to try to be cognizant of your time and everything right now, even though I know you're on a different time than I am. But even though we're on the same coast, brother. But
Miami's a different time zone. If anybody wonders why we came on a couple of seconds late today, it's all my fault. I'll take the blame. But I am Puerto Rican. I'm from the islands, and I can be Americanized all I want. The Latin time is still a thing.
Listen, what are you seeing coming up right now for 2022 in both of your communities? Like, what are you hearing from, the AV Educate community, and what are you seeing on the Evolve side? It's kind of like 2 different sides of the same coin,
Yeah. So what's been interesting about that is that one of the things that I think I've noticed so far in the last, let's say 6 months right now, right? So in the last 6 months, what I want to say has been the greatest thing. And I think Laura had said something a little earlier about this, about how we have changed the community here. But I was on a show with not Rob White. I was on a show with a buddy of mine, Noah the Beard Tanner. That's his full name. So Laura said, you guys have been great facility in so much collaboration and conversation. So that collaboration and conversation, a lot of people that I've been working with since the pandemic are definitely more in the mindset of being helpful to educate the younger generation, right? And I really like that change, because prior to that, I still remember very strongly. It was very, I know what I know. I'm not going to tell you stuff because you're going to steal my job.
Right.
Now it's like, there's enough work for all of us. We're all talented. The creme of the creme comes to the top. All right. And I've been seeing a lot more guys that are working, a lot more people that are out there helping out the next generation coming in. Like, hey, this is safer. Let's do this way. Let's do that way. And not that you don't know what you're doing. Go over there. I'll do it all myself because I don't want you to steal my job. So that's been a big change that's been happening. Another thing that's been happening, I think, on the educational front is that there is a lot more opportunity to gain the knowledge you need. And there's a lot more people that are willing to do the work, which is fantastic. And I love it. And if anybody ever wants to reach out and let me know how I can help you, I'm there 100%. What's been interesting on that is that now it's a double-edged sword, where the opportunity to do it is so much more available, but the kind of the will isn't there sometimes. And it's like figuring out that new generation coming up, where they do want that work-life balance. They do want something more structured. And unfortunately, like I said at the beginning, hospitality, we're 24/7, at the whim of the client and that day for the whole day. So it's not that easy. But you put some of these guys in there, like, hey, I need you to push some cases today, 10-hour day. And they're like, oh, I'm not doing this for a living. No way. It's like it gets better once you prove yourself, right? You're not coming here tomorrow and putting you on a switcher and
you have to start. You got to build trust.
Start somewhere,
just
right?
Like anything else,
So I think that the opportunities to learn and gain are there, and I think the people that are taking them are getting better and faster, because the owners, like yourself and like other people, they're seeing those guys who are taking the initiative to better themselves and saying, I'll take you on my show and put some risk on you because you've invested in yourself, right? Versus, absolutely. I've been doing this for 10 years. I only know how to do stagehand. I want to learn how to do a technician. Put me on a show. Like, no, this guy's been doing it for 3 years. He's invested a ton of time and money in himself to learn how to do this position. I'm going to put him in that show. And it's not that I dislike the verbiage, which is why I have an Instagram, right? I hate that. Oh, well, if you're an instructor, you can't be a good operator, or if you go to college, like that's not really it's like, no, that's not true. That mentality needs to go out the window. College has its place. It has its place for what it does. In the industry, there's a place to gain experience and the knowledge, and that's being a stagehand. Once you want to move up to that, I think what it used to be is a client would you would work with somebody enough that they took the risk on you, right?
Right.
Now it's like, hey, there's enough people out there that are hungry, and they're taking the initiative to learn stuff on their own. It's like a lot of the top guys, every top engineer that I know that I work with, they do at least one class a year. 12 years into this, I do at least one class a year. I mean, now I do way more than that because of my position. I had to teach classes, but before that, I was doing, even when I first started AV Educate 4 years ago, I was still doing one certification of something per year, minimum. Doesn't matter what software or hardware it was, I just had to do one. If you want to get up to there, that gives confidence to not only the person hiring you, but you could come to yourself that I know what I'm doing. I have these abilities, right? And then another thing, a trade off to that is that I think the generation that is doing that or getting to that point, we're also saying, hey, by the way, don't forget, those are networking moments. Everybody in that class get their information so that when you need to do a show and not lose a client, you say, hey, I can't do your show, but my buddy XYZ can do your show. Mm-hmm. And then you guys throw work to each other because you both have the same skill sets now. So it's like people are doing training because they're hungry. People are getting hired to that because the brass is, the people that are hiring you are seeing the initiative and they're rewarding you for it. And now you're seeing the networking.
I thought we were an accounting firm for a second. You said the brass. I mean,
sorry,
I got nervous. I started looking around.
Kicking in. But those are the big things I see right now. If you are doing training, whatever it is, post about it, make it known to your clients. They will reward you for the time and effort you're putting into that stuff because they want to see that in the people they're working with because they want the guys that are hungry. They don't want the guy that's been doing nothing all summer long or all year long and just wants to get back into it and learn on the job. That mentality of fake it till you make it has been gone for a long time. Stop trying to play that game. It's not working anymore. We catch you and you will get kicked out of this industry very fast. This industry does not play that game, and we see it from a mile away because when you fake it till you make it with our stuff, with our equipment, it becomes very clear very quickly that you are faking it and you're off and you're gone. So just be honest.
I mean, look, and the reality is we only have one chance.
Right. I mean,
that's the nature of what we do.
Right. You missed that cue. That's it. You've missed it. There's no going back. There's not post-production. That's it. You missed the cue. You missed it.
Right. It's not coming back, man.
It's not coming back, and we all know it, right? Yeah, that's another one.
Oh, look, and she's right on point. You're only as good as your crew. So you need the right team around you. And the more you network and get to know some other people that you can trust, it's a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, no, Amanda, my partner, she's totally right on what she's saying here, right? You're only as good as your crew. It's important to hire people who thrive and evolve. This is a woman who, in the last couple of years of my life, of her and being together, she has, expanded my capacity to accept and learn things to a whole nother level. I was just like, like she said, this is a progressive industry that learns very quickly. And I read a lot, but I wasn't learning a lot. And now it's like this whole other level. And it was taking the time to really slow down and just get like a little drill and just, you need to do that. You know what? I got it. But yeah, it's been an amazing journey when it comes to learning stuff and really learning how to get back. Omar, you're 1000% correct at not playing this game. Yeah. Megan knows that she'll hear it. Joe, you know it too. You'll get that text once in a while and you'll be like, okay, this guy said he knew his stuff. I trusted him on this piece, and he doesn't. I'm just gonna replace him. I'm not gonna worry about it because I know XYZ person could do it, and he's hungry for it.
I see 2 comments here from Ray Franklin, so let me bring those up. Suggestion on trying to balance things out for independent contractors. Okay, yep. I think that's a good tool for people. Just again, we need to be aware of things. So this is a great suggestion, Ray, and.
It's a good book. And
he did point out one other thing too, that I don't know how helpful this one is to you in particular, but I mean, he says my advice. I mean, I think we're going right back to the beginning with the combo,
I'm okay with it. I was born in the cooking cowboy days. I was born right around that time.
That's a different podcast. It's not this one.
Well, so speaking of podcasts, I was going to say, if you guys want to, if you go to Google, go to YouTube, don't go to Google, go to YouTube. Look up Clem Harold's book on Career Projection 101. We did a podcast with him, got him on there. Fantastic talk. Clem presents super well, dresses well, is always just a good person. We were just talking yesterday about his newest book coming out. We were chatting back and forth about a couple of things. Super excited for that book. I will, like everything else, I'll buy that and read that too. But we did a podcast with him to talk about it, dive into it a little bit. And if anybody hasn't read it yet, what I will say that's very cool is that if you're new or old to this industry, he does this kind of storybooking in the book that brings out a lot of just like, oh, that happened to me, or oh, that's how I did this, or oh, that's how I learned it. These little these aha moments. You're like, shit, same thing happened to me. So this goes back to what I was saying earlier, where we're learning to network better together. We're learning to talk to each other more and to pass down that knowledge. When people are starting out, like, hey, you're at this point, start doing this. That book will get you up to speed just as quickly as a conversation with your fellow colleagues would. And a lot of the mistakes he made in there, if you guys want to play the fool and learn it that way, you're more than welcome to. It'll just take you longer to get there. He's giving you the business knowledge you need to go from I learned this in 6 years to 10 years to I learned this in a book and got myself up to speed on this. And then the end of each chapter, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. Joe, maybe you're thinking about it, but thinking about retirement and how you do things, that part is definitely something that you guys need to look out for. And unfortunately, and real quick, I'll just say this for the guys out there. For the guys that are like, I'm a retirement, who gives a shit? As a freelancer, 1099, the most 10 paid years of your career as a W-2 is what's tracked. So just keep that in mind. If you're 1099, your retirement stuff's not tracked. You're not getting anything. So unless you're doing your own retirement plans, keep that in mind. But the book will go over some of that stuff. It's very insightful. Sorry, what did Amanda here just say? I saw something about hiring staff.
I don't know. She was giving like AV Educate all sorts of kudos and stuff. I was going to ignore it, but I thought I should bring it back up.
I like it.
Well, I mean, listen, she's right. Like, when you're on site, you are a leader, and you should be, even if you're just in your role and position, you are a leader. And so you have to think of it that way. So if you learn if you learn how to use the equipment, you learn how to talk to people, and then you learn all the other sides of your own business, like the book is going to guide you, that makes you a professional. And we're professionals. That's what everybody wants to be.
100%.
And it doesn't matter if today you're pushing a case. That's not important. Because the case has got to get on there. They got to get in the room and they got to get on the truck one way or the other, But
and mind your manners. You could be doing it with the owner, like Joe, hanging out, or like somebody said here about hanging out for almost a whole weekend with the owner of CNN Sports, and not realizing they were hanging out until the show day when he came on stage and said, "Oh, by the way," like those it's like, so Jim, I was hanging out with the president of Fox Network on a Sunday afternoon and didn't even know until Monday morning when they introduced themselves. So
because that Sunday's like rehearsal day, right?
Yeah.
So nobody does the intros.
He came in probably like in jeans. He came in with like jeans and a shirt, hanging out like, oh, no big deal. I'm just chilling with you guys. It was probably super
lay of the land, right?
Hanging out
to figure out where he's going to be and how it's going to feel.
And that happens all the time, especially loading offloading trucks. The owners, if you guys are there, you might not know it because they're going to be doing this. They're going to be huffing and puffing just like you. So, be conscious and mindful, again, hospitality, right? Of who you talk to, what you say, what you're doing. Because you could be talking to that one guy, like, oh, this company's bullshit. It's a piece of shit. I hate all this stuff. This gear's garbage. And like, oh, by the way, let me get your name so I don't hire you again.
Yeah, that's a quick one. Yeah, you'll know that. You don't want that question, guys.
Yeah.
But look, we're gonna get this show moving and wrap things up. Hey, thanks, Ray, for your participation. Thank you, Amanda, Angelo, Jim, Megan, Lars, Rohit. I mean, we've scanned the world here, I think, But listen, that's what it's about. It's about this community. And listen, Omar, I appreciate all of your time today. Eres un buen hombre, okay? You're a little late, but that's okay. That's all right. When I come down, listen, I think I'm going to retire to Puerto Rico. I mean, you're telling me no, but I mean, I can't do it. Is that?
I mean, you can come to Miami and get the same vibes. I'm just saying. All
right. Maybe I'll come to Miami first, and then we'll consider again after that.
Yeah, just come near, come like, maybe not Hialeah, but the rest of Miami, South Florida, you'll be all right.
That sounds good. Well, listen, good luck with everything at Evolve, and good luck with AV Educate, and thank you for building up the community. You're out. I'm going to pull you off stage, dude.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you being here and letting me talk about this. This is, obviously it's a passion I've had for a long time, and I'm going to keep going with it. And I'm just glad to talk about it and connect with everybody I can and, make things happen. Because honestly, I love this industry and I love what I do. And it's getting more and more fun the more I go down this rabbit hole.
It's pretty cool. You get to learn something new every day.
Oh, every day.
It's good. Well, listen, everybody, you can check out Omar, find him in the various places. Check those links that are right there. Omar, we'll talk soon. And I'm going to wrap this program up here. I know you got to work with all those people behind you and the brick walls. I know you got. I thought it was one of those backgrounds, those green screen backgrounds, but I think
no, I don't like the green screen, man. I try to keep it real.
I know what you mean. All right, Omar, we'll catch up soon.
Good seeing you. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you later.
Now, how's that for great? I mean, that's the idea, right? So you've got two different places. You saw the link for AV Educate, get involved in the groups with 4,000 other people who are similar, and in the hospitality, in the technical fields. And you got people from all over the world, and that's what makes us a community, because people are just trying to help each other. So make sure you check that out. And if you get a chance, especially if you get to see that lab down in Atlanta, that sounds awesome. But Evolve Technology, you'll get your training from Omar. You can talk to my friend Benoit. There's a whole bunch of other great people over there. But, just keep learning. I think that's the driver today, is just to keep learning. So look, everybody, we're going to wrap this thing up. And I want to make sure that, don't forget LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Come back next week. Next week's going to be a little bit different. Ryan's going to be heading this show up with Alexa. I got to be on a different thing. More to find out. Keep following. You'll hear more. But either way, everybody, have a great week, and we'll see you soon.